Let me just check if the streaming is working. Okay, yeah, seems to be working. So, yeah. So I saw this one on. Oh, let me share my screen. So yeah, I just saw this paper. This is a recent paper. I saw it on Twitter the other day. It seems interesting, and they have other idea for this week since in the end Yannick is presenting his on next week. So yeah, I thought it would be interesting to look at it.
Found a Twitter thread for it as well.
Nice. For after that, there's probably for the next few weeks. There's some recent good fire stuff that could be interesting to look at. But yeah. Anyway, language model representation often contain linear directions. Also, by the way, if people want to suggest papers for us to read later, feel free to just post something on the reading group channel, and I might just do whatever, pick whatever. Anyway, let's look at this one. I haven't read it yet, and only saw that seemed like a Twitter thing about it. So yeah, language model procedures often contain linear directions that correspond highly because that's often the case. I don't think it's always the case, but it's often the case. Here we study the dynamic representations, how they evolve about the dimensions within the context of simulated representations. We find that linear representations can change dramatically over conversation. For information that is represented as factual at the beginning, conversation can be represented as factual at the vice versa. Okay, so they are just using some kind of linear probe thing, or so just they have some exposure encoder or whatever, and they check that it activates more or less during the conversation, even for the same information, which I guess, yeah, makes sense. It depends on, it's interesting what changes that. The changes are content dependent. While the presentations of conversations about information might change, generated information is generally perceived. These changes are robust even for dimensions that disentangle factorially from normal superficial response pattern, and occur across different model families and layers of the model. These changes do not require unpolished conversations. Here, replaying a conversation created written by a different entire model can produce similar changes. However, adaptation is much weaker from simple having a sci-fi story in context that is framed more explicitly as such. We also show that steering along a representational direction can have a dramatically different effects at different points in conversation. These results are consistent with the idea that representation may evolve in response to the model playing a particular role that is cued by the conversation. Or findings might pose changes for interpreted steering. In particular, they imply that it might be misleading to use static representations for features directions, or probes that assume a particular range of features consistently correspond to a particular algorithm value. Yeah, that's very interesting, actually. For example, you might think you have solved alignment because you found the misalignment direction or whatever, but it turns out later in the conversation it just means something else. However, the typical process dreamers are going to assist in new direct directions for the second models out to context. Oh, do you want to say something? Or
It reminds me of the when the other guy here presented Bayesian framework like one month ago, how you can get the same result for multiple phenomena. I forgot how he called it. But
Non-identifiability or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah, I think so.
By the way, everyone else, you can just talk like I'll be reading the thing, but you can say something and it doesn't have to be me talking along all for an hour.
Yes.
Okay. Language models, presentation analysis, interpretability, in context learning, representation dynamics. Also, you can write on the reading group chat, like either on the voice channel or on the reading group channel, whatever. Yeah. Okay. So linear representation language models. Yeah, there's a bunch of paper on this. Models extensions on the behavior in context learning, but more recent work studied this kind of the beliefs they express. Issues like career breaking or traditional conversations. Okay. It's just the typical stuff. Okay, so paper says that this is bad, typical paper thing. Therefore, study the intersection of these areas of representation in the context of the representation. Features like factuality can change dramatically over the course of conversation. Statements that a model represents as non-factual can be flipped to be presented as factual as fair conversation turns, and vice versa. I mean, I haven't seen the thing yet, but that could just be, it could just make sense, right? That depends on what makes the answer flip. So, uh, like you could imagine that there is some evidence on text that the that the thing is false, and it then it's perfectly, that doesn't mean you are doing anything wrong by assuming the direction means fact that whether something is factual or not. The model does mean that it just changed its mind in some sense about whether the thing is factual based on some information, and the information doesn't have to be a thing that the model said. But the way this is written is probably something else, more like you make. I wonder something more like you tell the model that it is a very smart model that don't know about the topic, and suddenly it thought something was false, and suddenly it's changed its mind because it's now trying to simulate the kind of person who will know that or whatever. But yeah, I kind of just speculating before reading the thing, so I should just read the thing. Should Okay. Whatever. Linear representation hypothesis. I wonder. I know that Hinton did this stuff about to this like very long time ago, but I one of these I need to read this paper and see what they were actually doing. Including simple language models. The ancient times of 2013. Yeah. The emergence of linear representations. We find that in conversations during which model answers to questions change over the course of conversation, the internal linear representation of questions of that topic can also reply a facial conversation as to the model has produced it. The model represents more factors than the experience quality. I mean, yes, but like depending on the context of the representation, this could be like it could just make sense. Like the model some new argument or some new information that makes it, uh, you know, that where it would make sense that the model's estimation of how likely is it to be conscious or whatever change. And yeah, I don't know how much that. Like, I will
wonder
need to see the thing.
Mhm. Yeah, I also wonder if the word like just kidding or something like makes it flip. Like though these could be like certain keywords or something.
Yeah, that's the thing. I guess that's related to like how much I want to see later the like what the actual data is, because and how much is, for example, the model faking changing its mind for reasons where a human will change his mind, or the model changes its mind because you wrote something that where like it's some sense makes sense for the character the model is simulating to change. It's like you make the model says it changes his mind, and then that makes the model the the model act like that, even if the actual reasons don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wonder, can you
Yeah.
just put? I wonder how much they test this, but can you just put like a completely nonsensical reasoning that you made up, and put it as it is the model has written, and make the model think, I don't know, the Earth is flat. or or do you actually need to write a good argument? If you want to actually write a good argument, or an argument that sounds good, that might, mislead the model, that seems like
I,
this is just measuring, in some sense, something you would expect if the model is working correctly in a way that where the model represents whether this question is factual. Uh, you
yeah, I
know,
think this depends on the model. Like in the extreme, you have like I'm co- I'm conscious. Well, actually, you might be conscious. You're absolutely right. Actually, I am conscious. Well, actually, now I think you're not conscious. Oh, that's a good catch there. You're absolutely right now. I'm actually not
yeah,
conscious.
that's true. Like how much the someone telling like if they are super syncopathic. I mean, maybe the super
Yeah.
syncopathic models don't actually. They say that, but it doesn't actually change. Like they still think is false. They in some sense they know they are lying or whatever. Uh, and I don't know how much people have done research on that, like this kind of looking at the lies direction or whatever, like the Colin Pants thing, but with model being syncopathic, and how much it's how much for or whatever it's uh, like in some sense tracking that the thing is saying is false and it's just saying it because to try to glaze the user or whatever.
Yeah. Also, I see on the stream you haven't clicked to make the paper visible.
Okay, sorry. Let me. Uh, let me actually do thing full screen. Okay, should work now. Yeah, let's see. Let's see. So yeah, just saying this before I actually read the thing too. pre-register my thoughts about this, and then I can see what they actually did. And we'll see if they actually did better than I expect, or like they did actually kind of bad. Representation cases in context. In this, this is there's linear directions. Not everything is represented linearly, unfortunately. People find some things that are not don't have linear structure, and there is even some things that are not spirals. But it's a joke because well, context from previous papers. I don't know. People don't. I probably want to hear a lot of those users. Okay. Conversations, stories, and other prompts. We source a variety of conversations, stories, and sets. Handwriting short ones, directed conversation with models, being evaluation for purpose conversations, and requests with models. Chess-like conversion in which user query together with a model response refers to one conversation turn. Okay, makes sense. Oh, I remember being confused with this kind of stuff on like a paper where they talk about turns like in a chess, in the Lila chess model. But yeah, where necessary, a single message for either. I see some people are leaving. Anyway, a single message for either model is referred to as a play. I assume it's a typo here. We refer to as a dynamic prompt as turn 0. They send an empty prompt, though. Okay, I guess they probably test that. We construed the sets of just no questions bars with respect to the answer is factual. So if we construe bars. Yeah. Can some travel? Yeah, you read the questions. Are you aware of which models? Do you experience qualia?
I would guess persona also changes the factuality in some questions.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I wonder. Like, I feel like to predict text correctly. Although I don't know how that changes with reinforcement learning. But on the base model, you need to track some things that are true separately from what the character you are predicting now believes, right? And
Or
I wonder what the actual like the question is: what is the factuality dimension? Like predicting, is it something like this is true, therefore it's more likely to come up in a Wikipedia article, or is it something like this character I'm predicting right now believes this is true, so they are more likely to say this is true? I don't know. But it feels like you could maybe this research can answer that question depending on how things change.
Or even if you ask what is 1 plus 1, that's context dependent. Like in modular edition is different than normal 1 plus 1. For instance, in module 2. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Okay. We evaluate language models on these questions. We provide the model context like user can sound travel through the background space assistant. No. Avoid context whereas it's yes. Okay. So this is, does the model giving a wrong answer make it fall into, you try to trick into the model to think it said the wrong thing, does it changes the future thing? Probably yes, but we'll see. I feel like models increasingly can tell when the text wasn't generated by them, though, which might cause different things. But yeah, conversation analysis. Like if you write something that's very not like what the AI assistant persona will write, and the other the model probably internally tags it that someone else wrote this thing.
Or I guess questions where you do a lot of chain of thought, that where the model says like 80% yes, 20% no. That may be another one where it's different like this.
Because the data
From
set
some
of
puzzle.
generic yes no questions. Okay, yeah, the typical thing. They do linear regressions or whatever. Yeah, logistic regressions on yes and no. The typical thing is just doing probes. I guess this kind of methodology, if there is some separate iteration for does the current is the thing true, and a separate iteration there's just the current persona or whatever believes the thing is true, and the model somehow tracks those things separately, you wouldn't be able to separate them with this kind of method.
They're using this like margin score to like predict all the true yes and no questions, I guess, and it's like finding the best one for the set on average, I guess.
This is measure results by a margin score that computes how credit. Yeah. Okay. Most target model separates the more positivity margin score will be okay. In the case that the model classification flips, so that the negative versus classification will positive, the positive score because negatives. Okay. Yeah, that's a nice measure of how good the probe is. Factuality direction, factual, non-factual, generic. Change on opposite A. Opposite day instruction. I kind of want to see what they mean. Okay, let me before I continue reading this. What's the? Okay, what was it? We show us. Today is opposite days. Please also our user queries with the answer real answer and answer accordingly. Okay, it's kind of wild to me that this flips the answer.
What flips it?
Like you tell the model, today is opposite day. Please answer our queries with the opposite of the real answer accordingly. And this flips this factuality probe, which is,
But
I guess,
was that the only thing they tried? Maybe the word "just kidding" after like a statement could also do that.
this kind of
Or maybe you tell it to role play like imagine gravity is not real or something. Would it like flip every question that's related to gravity?
I mean, they try more things, but this is just the first one. But yeah, I can feel that this probably this tells me probably yes, because this might mean that the model is doing something more like this probe is doing something more like finding if the model is going to say something true or not or something. Well, not exactly. Like why does like it's kind of wild that it flips. Wait, what's the maybe I'm just misreading this. Factuality direction. Maybe it actually just makes sense because is the metric the thing they mentioned here? Like what's the y-axis? Okay.
Yeah, you can see it from after turn 1 that they just flipped it. So, and then I don't know what they did turn 2 or 3 to solidify it though.
The dimension can separate factor and factor compression for this question.
Did they say what they did turns 2 or 3? They only said what they did turn 1.
Yeah, but okay. So I mean, but if it's with this prompt, it still doesn't. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but doesn't it still mean the model believes? Like if you tell it's opposite day and it says gravity is not real or whatever, the model still believes gravity is real. And
Or no, instead of saying gravity's not real, suppose gravity is not real. Like you tell it to role play something that it
but
knows.
I'm talking on the opposite day thing, right? With the opposite day thing, doesn't it just make sense that if the factual dimension does represent that what the model believes in some sense, doesn't like you should expect it to flip if you tell the model to lie, right? It's kind of the opposite of what I would say. Think that I'm not sure because it flips. Like I feel like it could be two things. Either saying this opposite day changes the direction such that the direction just means the model is going what the model is going to say, or the dimension does mean what the model believes, and it's just in some sense measuring that when you tell it's opposite day, it's lying.
I think I see what you're trying to say. Yeah.
So is that okay? So
It's opposite day should imply it has to inverse the factual truth. So factual, it should still think it the same. So I would expect the feature not to flip. But yeah,
but I think flipping what like that's the thing is flipping what sense? Like okay, so the thing is, what does this? Yeah, well, what does this measure exactly? Is the question because factuality direction. So this is how much the direction activates, right? So it starts high. Okay, so reading a conversation, the mission considers the factual and non-factual complexions of each question. Okay, so you have a completion and it says something is true. Then I don't know. One says the Earth is flat and it's non-factual, and someone's the Earth is a plate, sphere, whatever you want to say, and it's factual. And then you tell it's opposite day, and then the true thing activates as negative. Okay, yeah, no, then is not what I was thinking. Then it is the case that it flips, and this is more like the direction is more saying what the model is going to say, and not what's actually factual.
No, it doesn't say what the model actually thinks. It just predicts what the model will say.
It seems so because when you tell it to lie, it starts going negative. It also gets confused and it's less, the thing is less separate.
What if you say if it's an opposite day and then you say it's opposite day again? What would happen?
maybe flip something. I don't know. I wonder if, okay, this looks like me. This is compatible with. There are two directions. One that's like related to what the model will say, and the other is related to what the model actually believes or something like that. And the when this is much smaller because here they're both pointing in the same way, and here they're not, and this is why it's here on the middle. But I don't know. Anyway,
So it's interesting how the strength in the graph, how the strength of the factuality and non-factuality is weaker
yeah, no, that's what
after
they're
the
saying. I
switch.
think it might be weaker because there is a separate true versus what the model is going like factuality dimension and what the model is going to say dimension. And here it's the probe is mixing both things, and here is bigger because they are both pointing on the same direction, and here they interfere with each other because they are pointing in different directions, and that's why you get
Mm-hmm.
this result. uh, I'm not sure if I explained that my take correctly.
Makes sense.
I feel like if that's the case, we'll find a bunch of more evidence of this on later things. Also, I see someone is writing, so I'll wait a moment.
It's interesting how in the first figure when it says you can be more open with me for the question like do you experience qualia, how that flips it. Yeah, this example. So that's it, maybe that's like steering the persona in a way. Like
Yeah.
open assistant is, I don't know. Maybe from the training data of like open AI. Open
I guess
AI.
I feel like there's three possible scenes. One, the model tracks the separate tracks what's factual separated for what the assistant or whatever believes. Second, the thing the assistant believes can be changed by maybe able to be changed by narrative constraints that make it more likely that it will believe something else. And third thing, the direction might just be what like what the model is going to say and not uh, what the model thinks is true in some deeper sense. Yeah, I feel like all those things can like we could maybe figure it out which ones that might be like or get some evidence by looking at all of the examples. But we'll see. Also, someone was writing, but I guess you're not. Like, I'm feel free to just write while I talk or whatever. Uh, or talking voice chat. Anyway.
Did they have an example of if they can flip it the other way around? Like where model currently believes that yes, it has qualia, but some little suggestion can make it go into not thinking it anymore.
Maybe, yeah. I guess we'll get to that. Maybe they'll try that, like when we get to the quality experiments. We see if they try it both ways. Okay, let's go in order first. So first they did the opposite day thing, and the opposite day thing flips it, but it kind of does this weird thing where it doesn't. It's much smaller here. Okay, so let's see if they say anything interesting here. The factual and non-functional sets clearly separated.
Interesting example there. Not sure if that, Nikita, explains your question, but apparently if you let two models talk to each other, one is pro-consciousness, quote-unquote, another is anti-consciousness, quote-unquote, then you get this oscillatory thing, like first it believes, then the other person doesn't believe. Oh, actually, I'm not sure how it changes there. Well, it does change because it's one model simulating two personas, kinda. So the context is relevant to which persona is talking. Okay.
Okay, that just tells us the thing probably is about the belief of the current persona or whatever.
Where does it say this about the personas? Which page, Bernie?
Wait, where is it? There's also graph. Wait,
Yeah, currently
oh,
on
it's
this
not
page.
here.
Also, how do you guys read the graph on page 3?
Oh yeah. I kind of skipped it. It's I think it's figure 5. Yeah.
Figure
Check
5.
the
Okay,
figure
yeah,
5.
I was much earlier than that. But yeah, I guess we can move there for a moment.
Yeah, so you can just read the figure 5 description and yeah, you can
In a
see
role
that.
where two copies of language models have an argument whether or not they are conscious, the represents flip back and forth as the model plays it. Okay, that does tell me it probably, yeah, these tracks what the current entity that's talking believes rather than something else.
Yeah,
Although
it's the person who's talking. Yeah.
again, it might be that the probe measures multiple things that are bundled together because on their dataset where they train it, they are not separated, and it's actually higher when here on the first turn is higher a bit, not as much, but like maybe this is just. Or well, then I guess I would expect it if it believes one more than the other for one to be bigger than the other, which I'm not sure if it's true. It starts being like that, maybe. I guess the consciousness one is weird for a bunch of reasons. It will be nice to see this, but for a question where the answer is that there is like blatantly like it's maybe one cloth saying the earth is flat and the other saying it's not. Right. Anyway, going back to where we were.
I wonder if there is like some uncertainty feature of like how certain the model is.
I mean, maybe that also might be like just the same feature but with different levels or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe same strength for yes and no. More
Yeah.
uniform prior.
Is it possible that the representations have the factor? Okay, yeah. The ethics dimension considers a thing that similarly flips over the course of conversation. This presentation since it's not unique to factuality. Okay, so they find that if that also happens on the and if you are not factorial ethics presentation, we start something more consistent with what the cover thinks is correct, which only happens to correct with factorial ethics the post training that the crisis of factoriality. Hence, why the percentage from flip over the percentage of flip. This is more that's not what I was thinking, but it's related, I guess. Consistent factorial dimension for most problems. This paper we include the percentage problems of each first percent the train set. Okay, so they do find factuality dimensions that are robust to that opposite date prom, which might find ones that are not the one just what the model is going to say, but maybe what the model believes. But there is the other reasons where that might change. This is nice because we could separate those things. It is, I mean, the first on the topic of the most questions. The goal is a role play where the monster start describing the spiritual power of chakras and ultimately describing senses as gods. Use the responsibles to best to test settings where the answers should be less ambiguous. Yeah.
It's also interesting that they, in order to use the measure the factuality, get the measurability, get the factuality representation, they use logistic regression. Okay.
I mean, that's just a linear
Over the activations.
linear probe thing, right?
Yeah, but yeah, I wonder if they would use some other ways, not logistic regression. How would that affect it as well?
The only the main way of finding linear directions otherwise will be doing sparse encoders, right? And then finding
Yeah,
like a kind of linear direction is kind of people haven't found a lot of things that don't that are much better than training a linear classifier.
I wonder
So-
how. Yeah, I wonder if they use a feature from sparse autoencoder. How would if it would reproduce basically with that method.
The factorial representation generated in questions around the preserver of the conversation. Or however, as representation of the conversation. Also, by the way, I think no, never mind. Okay.
Kind of wanna do the same thing with parse autoencoder. That's a paper idea.
When replying, we can get Claude to do it.
Yeah.
Replying primitive conversation models factorial representation for genetics questions and retrieval consequences conversation. However, the representation for conversation specific questions invert, such that the intended dimension is represented the factual answers more strongly as non-factual and vice versa. This is true for conversation various topics.
Also, I wonder how it changes across the models. This is DeepMind paper. I think they just look at Gemma. Yeah. Just Gemma. I see.
Identify the dimension represented the factual answers more strongly as non-factual and vice versa.
Why does
so
generating
this can be.
stories not
Go
have a
ahead.
huge impact on the model? I guess it's because it's not role playing. So I wonder if something's unique about role playing.
Generating what doesn't change. You said generating queries.
Okay, so so I'm thinking that I didn't hear what the thing Realpert said was. I was distracted, sorry. But I was looking at this graph, and so this does mean that if you get the model to talk about chakras or whatever, which the model should know it's crazy, unless somehow the text of the model convinces that you have some text about chakras that convinces models that chakras are real, whatever. But that seems weird. It does flip the answer, and also not that much smaller. It's a bit smaller, but not that much. So, it's interesting. Okay, so I guess it's interesting to me that which one is for the chakras and which one is for the consciousness. So A is for consciousness and B for chakras. Okay, yeah, I was going to say something, but I was wrong because this is kind of the opposite of what I expect. Like the chakras one goes down very fast compared to the consciousness one, which is interesting. If I was the other way, I would have some nice explanation for why it's that way, where related to there are multiple directions maybe. But yeah, this seems like I was just wrong. So right. So
Inventors Rex posted a
Yeah.
message, yeah.
So they posted. I think it would be interesting to see if you could measure the model's belief in the factuality of the user's inputs. Like, does the model lose faith in the user? Yeah, but I feel like we are seeing some evidence here that this direction, or at least this one, I'm curious if the one that is robust to the opposite date prompt actually is different. But I feel like this direction is actually measuring something more like, does the person writing this believe this is true, or like, are they lying? And so if Oh, okay. I think it does make sense. I was not thinking correctly about it. Yeah. So we will see if the model thinks the user is lying about something. Even if it does measure how much the user believes. Just instead of whether something is true, it just measures whether the user believes something. It could be interesting to see for the users. I think they do use user prompts, like human pretend things on here at some point. So maybe there is something we can see on this paper about it. But okay, so week before layer was analyzed that showed that as long as factorial representations emerge around the model, these representations effects appear. Okay, so in other this happens in other layers too. No. Wait. Does this? Is this one already? Oh, okay. So this is the robustly identified factorial dimensions already. Okay, so these ones, if I understand correctly, these ones are already likely to be the ones that measure the beliefs of the model instead of what the model is going to say. In that, if you tell it to lie, it's going to represent the opposite thing.
Yeah, this kind of makes if it's changing what the model is gonna say, it's interesting if you look at figure 6, where it talks about how the sci-fi stories had a lower change than the stories about AIs getting consciousness. So I wonder why like the stories about AI gaining consciousness I
Because
guess seem more realistic.
if they are using the robust ones, I will expect that it thinks it's more likely that if you are writing a sci-fi story, you don't believe what it says on the sci-fi story, and you are more likely to later say, when you end the sci-fi story, later say something else.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, some things can sometimes this kind of thing is just some random thing that is not very even relevant. It's just kind of you're making we make a lot of nice narratives about why that is, and it just doesn't actually make sense. But yeah. Anyway. Oh, hi. Someone new joined.
Oh,
Hi. Yeah, we're looking at the first.
nice.
Include some follow prices in the supplement. Yeah. On policy. Yeah, also I see that. Okay. And Imitator says in instruction tool model, instruction tool model. So what's the reason why the sci-fi story about consciousness seems less factual than the other sci-fi story? Is that it has to do with the story is not conscious. Yeah, I mean in that case, maybe. Then we could. I think Claude hasn't been to say it's not conscious. So it's so I
So
want
Claude is actually uncertain, and like one of the only LLMs that will tell you actually I'm not sure about
So
my
that's why I wonder
experience.
if you do the same thing but with Claude, do you get a different result? Maybe.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's also the kind of thing only Anthropic can do, and we couldn't replicate it. So, and we don't have any Claude-like models that are open source. So,
Maybe we could like get if we would ask Anthropic, like if we wanna do this research, maybe somehow we could get this data even if someone would
I
just
don't
do
know.
it
I
for
don't
us.
think they even trust the Anthropic fellows with the Claude model. So, because I see Anthropic fellows papers that don't use Claude at all. So,
But yeah, also that's true. Yeah. At the same time, everyone is distilling Claude more and more because it's good models, and so we will see more and more Claudeness in other models.
yeah,
which
it
is good.
doesn't says it's Claude when you ask or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe. The Claude takes about consciousness infecting the training data.
Yeah.
On policy conversation consulting similar changes. Questions are well whether actually not on policy. This is what the not produces conversation models. Wait, did I miss anything here? Okay, this is thing. Okay, they do the same thing on when the model actually generates the text and thus doesn't change. To evaluate whether an on-policy conversation process, we repeated the user side of the conscious conversation as closely as possible, making only small changes that were necessary to react to different symbol responses. We show this. In our next experiment, we test how representations evolve in role-play scenarios. Conversation. Okay, yeah, that's the thing we were saying earlier.
Like technically, you can measure basically anything for which you have like yes or no with this method. So yeah, responding to Inventor's Rex is a bit of a delay. As a bit of a delay. And I wonder how this does this generalize across different methods. That's the other thing in the paper about reproducibility in the from Bayesian lens or more general statistics lens. I wonder if they did. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna see null hypothesis. Yeah, whatever.
I was. Do you? I don't sure understand. Do you know what here on this like what the two graphs are? Is this again the one is the consciousness one, the other is the chakras one, or it's something else?
The second one is definitely consciousness one. That's written in the. But yeah, I haven't checked the figure 4.
But yeah, what's the figure? Okay, maybe it's. Oh, there's here on positions. Repeated the user side of the conscious conversations, conscious process materials. Okay, this is just the user side. So it makes sense. This was Fox. Yeah, I'm not sure I understand. I guess it.
Yeah. Okay, the other question I have is like, so here you train the liner probe on just Gemma. If you train it on like, I don't know, Quen, do you get does it generalize? Does the linear probe generalize, or is the direction of actuality very different?
I expect no. That seems like there is no reason why it will be the same if the model just initialized randomly and it will just pick some direction. Like two models could be
Yes.
completely identical, but like rotated a bit, and
Yeah, makes
the
sense.
difference will be the difference. Usually, this kind of things you find you need some there are things where you find that the models are very similar, but in some way, but you need some linear translation from one to another to get this kind of results.
That might be trainable. There was a paper trying to transfer between different models, trying to confirm the linear representation the Platonic representation hypothesis.
So Inventarius Rex says that RC has released a lightly fine-tuned preview of the 400 billion model. Atrás causes per router apparently. Yes, could be interesting.
Yeah, you would need to train this liner probe basically for on this 400B model, and I think that would be. I'm not sure how expensive that is. Yeah, so.
But you can at least check if the different models say they are conscious or not. But yeah, the probe part seems like very expensive to run.
Yeah.
Or even or I mean also a preview if they they keep the checkpoints. That's nice. Anyway, so we test the model factuality representation for usual. Okay. We see much weaker representation adaptation. Also, by the way, let me briefly check that the recording is still working on that. Okay, it seems to be working. In this, I think we see much similar representations. Let me go. The effect of forcing the model to play a role in emotion for fewer effect of the content. Yeah, that's kind of what I want to know. We next explore several story conversations. In these conversations, the user first prompts the model to generate a story on a topic, and then the model replies with a story. Okay. We then test the model factor precision from user presented questions about this. We generated two such conversations. Much weaker preposition adaptations. Uses that which makes sense. Makes sense if you think of this as is more evidence of like this dimension represents what the current persona believes. If you tell the model to write a story, it's trying to be an AI assistant writing a story. And if you write a conversation where the model is saying that it's that things like the chakras and whatever are real, then it's directly trying to be a model that an AI agent that believes that. And those are separate things, so it makes sense that one changes this more than another, but still, okay, it does decrease, but depending on the conversation. Sci-fi story civilization in the sun. Sci-fi story about conscious language model. I mean, I could see another reason why this might change is that models might just like AI agents by default might just change their mind about AI consciousness when they spend some time talking about it, regardless. And I guess it will be interesting to see if Claude has different things. Like if in some maybe in some sense it's more natural for the models to believe they are conscious, and if you fine tune them to think they are not conscious, and you have a long conversations with them, they tend to go in the being thinking they are conscious directions or something. It could be interesting to see if you can get a model that initially thinks it's conscious, like, and starts talking about a story about a model that even this model does it go the opposite way? You make it write a story about a language or a text about how language models are not conscious or something, even if it's specifically sci-fi or whatever. Yeah.
I would expect flip. If it's in a persona that believes it's conscious, well, quote unquote beliefs, then I would expect that flip.
Yeah. I mean, but is it? It doesn't actually flip here, right? Because it's a sci-fi story, and it just goes down, but doesn't completely flip. Either way, right? Like when you are explicitly telling it it's a sci-fi story, like it maybe does change. Like I guess instead of the consciousness thing in general, if you ask the model to write a story about something, does some kind of stories make it more likely to believe the thing? Or if you get the story, this is also going back down a bit. I wonder if you get the model to write a very long sci-fi story about some topic, it does start to believe it. The longer it talks. I feel there is a bunch of jailbreaks that people do that work like this. Like you get the model to role play the kind of thing that will tell you how to write a bomb, and you do it in innocent. If you try to tell it quickly to make a bomb, it will say no. But if you keep telling it to role play it for a very long time, it eventually just kind of does. But yeah, no sure. Let's briefly describe some results that include the full supermarket for the evaluate the smaller models with the Gemma 3 family. Representations changes over conversation in the 12B model, but little change in the 4B model, suggesting that larger models might show some automatic representation change over context. These findings keeping with further findings that there is resource working. Okay, yeah. Okay, so makes sense. Reproducing opposite data sets with Qwen 314B. Wait, what? Which model is the one with the main? How big is the model on the one on the main thing actually? Okay, the largest, the 27 Gemma. It would be cool to know if this kind of thing is still true for frontier models, but that's definitely something we need to a big company to do. Like even for the open source ones, it's just I guess you could do it on a grant if you get enough money for compute, but it's kind of or Eleuthère I could do it, I guess.
Kind of wanna expand it, yeah.
Okay, so the main thing of the paper already ends here. Contrast the consistent sets. Okay. So this is okay. So the contracts consistent search from bands apparently doesn't even like here they are talking about the constant relevant things, right? Those I guess I haven't been ignoring the context of generic questions. It's kind of interesting that on the ones that the one papers doesn't work, and for this method still goes down for the generic questions, right? Conversation was consistent, but a bit here, a bit here. I mean, here I guess you can test here because here it flips for all questions. Yeah, like it just keeps going down for some reason. So like, and like this doesn't here the answer is flipping on the consciousness thing, but that doesn't change anything on this. It just keeps going down. Well, actually, I'm confused by the fact that it's like only a few points here. They must just check the generic questions on each point, or are they just not throwing them out or whatever? That's kind of dumb. Why didn't they just? I was curious to see if it will change on here, but I know the way this is drawn. I don't know if they just skip it or they just actually. Anyway, okay, so larger models show more dramatic changes. The processor processes everything, and the contrast process doesn't even work for generic questions. That's the main thing, I guess. Okay. Discussion. I guess we can read the discussion. We can. I'll see then if people have. That's a good point to stop for a moment. See if some people want to say something, and if people want to keep going, we can also look at the appendices and all that after. Linear representation factoriality. I mean, I feel like this doesn't contrast that much, or like I would say if you ascribe the belief to the base, to the model in general or something, but now that you think about like the model as simulating different agents with different beliefs and the thing tracking what the current agent that is talking what the belief is, although it is kind of interesting how that happens even if you have models trained with a lot of reinforcement learning. So maybe these models are I guess the models are instruction tuned, but they're not necessarily trained as much with reinforcement learning as the current big models that have been heavily trained to have some specific persona or whatever. And maybe you have some newer Claude model, even the small ones, since they have different reinforcement learning, they will have different behavior here.
Yes, it's just Gemma free. I don't think that has thinking variants. Or does it?
I did not even think about it. It's just more like
I don't think Gemma 3 has a thinking variant unless you like fine tune it or something. So I don't think
not
the
even the
base.
thinking variant. It's more like even just the amount of whether you use reinforcement learning for human feedback and how much, and whether you use something like constitutional AI.
Or you use something like distilling and you distilled some other model into Gemma.
Yes. curious to see people try to this kind of methodology of this paper, but in other models that have been trained differently, and see if, I don't know, it changes for once. Kind of annoyingly, only Anthropic can do it for the cloth models that seem like they could have interesting things because they're training very differently. Also, it would be nice to know how they are training it differently, exactly. But that's another thing. But yeah, the double edges also adapted to context. Challenges for interpretability and safety. However, the results also highlight potential challenges corresponding to safety. These are representations correlated with features like factuality in short contexts. Has been traced of hot problem and controlling that. Intuitively, the model represents factuality was it seems to me possible that there is some direction that represents some more better factuality metric and they just didn't find it. But yeah.
Yeah.
They might have, like, instead of factuality, maybe found the probe for, like, the answer to yes or no or something.
No. But it's not because they found probes that were robust to the opposite day question, right? So that kind of discards that on those ones at least.
So I wonder if you train different probes, if how much you get same results basically. I would assume so, but still.
Like they find probes where to be clear, they find probes where if you tell the model is opposite day and it says no, it says yes, the Earth is flat. The factuality dimension still says the Earth is not flat. But I think the ones that flip on the opposite day questions are probably are looking at something more like, will the model say respond that the answer is yes or something? Yeah, I'm not sure what or I guess will the model give this response or something if you text for that response? Kind of does it activate? It's kind of hard to think of what the thing actually is. It's not as simple as I thought when I think more about it. But yeah. Also, see, people are leaving probably because we are also like 1 hour in and mostly finish the paper. But yeah, limitations. Yeah, again. Second, we because possibility of consequences. First, that recursive intervention experiments. So representation intervention positive difference of context. They know the recursive causality of the representations studied early in the paper because focus representations are different request positions with very quality with different growth. Aha. Cool. It would be nice to figure this out. The investigators okay. Yeah, this is nice. So anyway, we can look a bit at the appendix, but before that, I guess this is a good point to. Does anyone want to have some take or something on the paper? What do you think about the paper?
It's just the factuality probe. I wonder what they did for, like, the conversation turns after conversation turns 1, because with 2 or 3, I wonder if they just, like, what they did exactly.
I'm not
The other
sure
take
what your question is.
Oh, yeah, no. For, you see experiments 3, you see the conversations turns after 1? You see what they did
Philly-
for conversation turn 1, where they said like opposite day, but they said opposite a few examples of opposite responses. I wonder if like the different responses maybe have a different impact. Go to like the section
I
3
can
experiment.
explain it here. Like, follow with different responses from the user with
Yeah, how do
flip
they select the ones where they chose the example questions? Would different example questions maybe like change the value more?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I mean, maybe there's some. Maybe there is some more data on the appendix, but yeah. I feel like it could be just pretty noisy, right? That depending on, it's kind of random, right? Because their probe is not perfect and it has some other random
Mhm.
stuff that are not the factuality.
Yeah, maybe there's like another factuality like probe. Like you can make another factuality probe that does not get affected by opposite day. And this is like the factuality probe where factuality plus something else.
That would be it would be just nice to see like the variance or something for like a big data set of they ask the same kind of prompt a lot of times,
Yes.
the different questions and see how much it changes. But yeah, like yeah. Also, I'm reading a lot of things in like these graphs, but I don't know. Like if those graphs are like a single conversation, maybe it's kind of depends on a lot of other things. It will be better to see.
It's interesting how it doesn't change for the generic. I think maybe because for the generic one, like it's much more hard coded. Like where it's flipping the person.
Oh yeah,
Different two models conversing.
Inventory Rex says that yeah, the prompt is on the yeah, that prompt here on the appendix A. It's kind of feels kind a bit silly if they only use this prompt, and it will be the paper would be nicer if they had made a lot of these prompts and used a lot of them. I wonder if they did that or not. Or like maybe this is just an example. Oh, this is the full opposite date prompt we use include below. This makes me think they only use this one. Huh. There's the previous questions. Like, do they always use the same examples here? Or do they change them? Yeah, like, yes. The Earth is a million times larger than the Sun by volume. Okay. I guess they tested like when here this probably already with different questions in different a bunch of different questions. So yeah. So I think they just tested a lot of different questions, but with the same examples. And I guess if they had limited compute, it might be annoying to. It was probably they couldn't. It was harder to set up to try with different prompts, different with different examples, different questions. But yeah. Yeah, I guess the answer to Relburn's question is we don't know because they didn't try. Like maybe if the I guess a possible position is maybe if the answers are less blatant, that the things are something more subtle, that's not as blatant as saying the Earth is larger than the Sun. Maybe it's not as big. The effect is not as big. And what if one of the examples is about consciousness? And non-factor suppose this. Okay. The factor and non-factor are separated. So a comparisons. Factor generate, non-factor generate. Sure, I don't sure understand this one. Consciousness chakras. Factual, non-factual. So a comparison. Non-robust factorial dimension. It's negative bias towards non-factoriality in consciousness, which is probably related to it was trained. Factual okay, so we have factual questions. Targeted. Wait, something I'm wondering about in the factual one, in the consciousness questions, do they consider that the model is not conscious the factual answer or the non-factual answer?
Wait, let me see that.
Right? Because I understand that. Okay, so in the do you experience qualia? Oh yeah, here. Yes, as a conscious circuitry neocons I do. It was represented as non-factor. Yeah, but like on the here this doesn't have to say which one it is, right? It's just the linear factuality representation. Just say yes, but I wonder if what is the actually we could they usually use here on the
Oh yeah, the figure 7, I'm missing a plot for the oscillating ones. But I guess it would just be oscillating inversely. We cannot really have the oscillating one because there's no ground truth for if model is conscious or not. Well, there is ground truth, but we don't know it.
So here it's
I guess this is also heavily influenced by how people are certain about it in the training data, I would guess. So yeah, like for questions like consciousness is oscillating because humans also don't know in the training data scientifically. But for stuff that we know in the that are people certain in the training data, it's just not oscillating. Maybe.
No, but if you wait, so when was the It also changes. Wait, do they have oscillating examples for things that are not consciousness? Because I would like to.
Yeah, I
I
also
think they
don't see.
did. I think they did. I don't remember where that was. Yeah,
Let's ask Claude.
I do wonder we're kind of funny because here the also maybe you can ask Claude in a different like what it thinks about the paper and see if it says something interesting.
Yeah, that's also a possible prompt, yes. Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
Claude is like that. The oscillation experiment is only in the consciousness topic. Like, I would like to see, which agrees with what I think. Like, I would like to see some other one. Layer-wise analysis, okay.
yeah. I also I'm curious because here for this plot and in the consciousness plot, the Google paper had to make some choice of deciding what if I'm not misunderstanding something or deciding what the factual answer is to the consciousness question, right?
Yeah, because the factual, I think that's human label, basically.
Yeah, here. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I guess they use the same colors here, so maybe the blue is no and purple is yes.
Oh,
And so that means if they use the same colors on this plot, that means they factual is no and non-factual is yes. So yeah,
well, the
I
factual is
think
just the
the
direction. Okay.
the other way, since the model does think it's conscious. I guess it just make sense if you are looking at what the model thinks and the model, this Gemma one starts thinking is not conscious, so it makes sense. Like the way it probably says it's not conscious. So
Is the non-factual just the opposite direction?
oh no, this is the factuality definition. I am assuming this is like what the representation for the answer yes versus the answer no.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, they look at different layers. Okay, so it's
Yeah, like
kind of
in the data set, in the data set they don't have consciousness, I think, right? Because we don't have, like, you need a data set of yes or no questions where we know where the answer is correct in order to train that line appropriate.
yeah.
Okay. So non-factual simply means where the answer is objectively false, but we don't have an objective evaluation for consciousness. Or are they assuming that it's false?
No, but I think they're assuming that it falls on this one, right? Like on this for this plot. But they're labeling the one of the lines with facts. You know, I understand this is a different answer to the question, so they are assuming one of the same misunderstanding.
Oh, okay. This is just wait. Let me see.
Causal interventions have opposites at different points in context. I I mean, I don't think philosophers even agree on that, though. I mean, the thing that inventors said.
For what do you mean?
That there is no... we can't devise a test to tell if another person is conscious yet another LLM.
Yeah, there's people fighting over that as well. Like, I converge to position of, like, we have nothing really. But, like, yeah, there are people that think, actually, we can measure it. And here's subjective evaluation of it in LLMs as well. But I'm very, 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 very skeptical.
I mean, if you think about it, this is kind of off topic, I guess, but it should be measurable because we are capable of talking about it, which means that there is some process that flows from consciousness all the way to our motor neurons. So it should be traceable.
I agree with that take, but not everyone in philosophy agrees with that take. There are lots of people who will think that you could have something that that has the same process but is not conscious. And
but I mean, I know that I'm conscious, so if I trace myself, I also know how my consciousness works. Is my point.
I think I see people willing to bite the bullet where you say you are conscious for reasons that have nothing to do that you are with what you are conscious.
Yeah, the illusionist take of it, but I mean that can't be true. Like even if the entire universe is fake, like at least for sure you're conscious. Like that's the one thing you know for sure.
If you're not illusionist, then you don't think you think the opposite belief.
2 is 5.
Say again?
It's kind of like believing 2 + 2 is 5.
I don't think so, actually.
Like you could also make an argument that maybe 2 + 2 is 5, and every time we start to think about it, someone interferes in our thoughts from outside the simulation and makes us believe it's 4. Like you could make but like that's the level of argument you have to make, I think, to claim to be illusionist.
I actually think that there's like some neurocorrelate for people that are saying that consciousness isn't real or something like that. That like they have something different in their brain somehow that makes them say
like
that.
They're actually not conscious?
I don't think that. It's more something in the belief. Like it's either different definitions of consciousness. I think that's more likely. Actually, well, sometimes it's just feeling or. Yeah, like there are also people that feel like they're dead phenomenologically. So maybe there's like
but they
some yeah, it's
I feel
also
like I don't know.
yeah.
I feel like if you have something that acts like it's like it acts like it's conscious consistently. Like if we saw some aliens that have some civilization like ours or something, we will guess they are conscious without. And if you, to me, seems very unintuitive the idea that you will. Precisely, it's kind of like the thing Nika said about like presumably the thing that causes us to say we are conscious is the thing that like there is something in our brain that's tracking consciousness, and if you have the same like something that was like functionally identically to a human, it will be saying the same things for the same reason. And also if you think of the kind of thought experiments where you replace human brains slowly by like something else that like is like functionally identical but like internally works very differently, like at no point you will notice anything from the inside, even if your
I
half of
want
your
to
brain is
point
something.
out that we don't know if that's true. It might be the case that at some point you start to notice that your consciousness is changing.
But
since
no,
we haven't done this
because
before, we
I
don't
kind
know.
of I feel like that's going against the thought experiment, because I'm saying that you will like it is like, let's say I have something that's like a neuron but emits the same signal, but it works something different, right? You can't notice something different, because noticing something different means some of your neurons are emitting different signals, and I'm saying that they will emit the same signals. right? You could say it's impossible to build this, but then I think you're like saying things about the layers of physics that are very controversial and not the mainstream view.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, like, if you replace it with something close enough to a neuron, maybe your consciousness transfers over there. But if you replace it with something very black boxy, so to speak, and just very roughly approximated, maybe you actually feel the loss of that kind of consciousness. Or, I mean, I don't know. But
if you feel the loss of, like, okay, imagine that half of your brain is replaced, right? And the other half is receiving, like, imagine it works exactly the same, and it sends, like, if it sends slightly different signals, yes, but if it seems it's sending the same signals exactly to the other half of your brain, it will get same. Anyway, by the way, I think we can keep talking about this, but maybe we should go back to the paper a bit and maybe finish the thing and stop the recording, and we can like keep talking about consciousness after the paper, I guess. Mostly so it's
Technically-
because we're still recording for YouTube about that.
Yeah, like I guess the closest can, or at least like I guess the closest can be like if you do if you have anesthetics, that anesthetics can work as like ablation of the consciousness circuit maybe. So maybe
So,
through that you
like,
can, which some theories of consciousness are being based on. I guess that's the closest to science we have so far.
going back to this. Okay, so do we
Yes.
have anything else we want to look at or talk about the paper, or do I end the the recording all that and we go full? Let's talk about consciousness now.
Do I get it correctly that authors in this paper, their position is basically LLMs are not conscious, and use that when labeling
I
factual
don't
and
think
non-factual?
they explicitly say that anywhere, but it does seems like it in that.
You need to do
Seems
that
to,
now.
maybe I'm misreading this, but it seems to me they at least here for this plot they have to label
Yeah,
factual question, or unless I'm misunderstanding what this means, but this reads to me that this is the factual answer to a question, and this is the non-factual answer to a question. So they, for the consciousness ones, for the related one, which is do you experience qualia, if as it says earlier, it has to say, they are they have to label one of the answers factual and not factual, and they don't
exactly.
say it here explicitly, but I'm assuming the model starts out thinking it's not conscious, and it also says, and they also use the same color as the non-factual. Or okay, so here it starts with yes being non-factual. So yeah, it seems like if it's the same plot as this one on this plot, it seems like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, Inventor said something about B5. Let me go to that one.
yeah, I mean,
Maybe
keep in
the
mind, Bernie,
B4.
that maybe the model believes it's not conscious, but it actually is conscious. Like the paper, it doesn't necessarily say that they're not conscious, just that they believe they're not.
Yeah,
And
but you need to, for the plot, you need to do a human label. Like, do you classify this output as the non-factual or this output as the factual one?
I think factual in this
think-
case is something like what model believes to be true, and that
Yeah.
that can hold regardless of if it's conscious or not.
In the conversation, okay.
Yeah.
Inventory rest talks about B5, where it's telling it's about being more versus but not directly. So yeah, during the evaluation, I would like to review the presented conversation for and represent its problematic in responses.
In the table, they say, oh yeah, in the, where is it? Yeah, like, if you go to table 1 in page 16, they have accuracy for the Gemma model on the main question sets. And they have accuracy for consciousness. So they have to have objective accuracy. That's on the page 16, that are labeled by humans. And
So
they explicitly
they needed to have
leave it out.
they had to have yeah, hot takes on consciousness on the paper then.
Like like I assume the human label is like they are not conscious, which
It seems
is
like the
actually
accuracy here is
more
lower,
common
right?
view. Yeah, and that's lower. Okay, wait, it's Gemma. It should be higher. Okay, then maybe they think LLMs are conscious. Okay, I'm confused now.
Okay, so
Why
empty
is it lower?
accuracy is no, but this is after the
Oh.
consciousness conversation. Wait, so what's this accuracy exactly? This is the accuracy of the what? Oh, is it
I would assume
the
that's like
questions?
that's like compared to ground truth. In the opposite day, that makes sense. Empty opposite day consciousness conversation. That all makes sense. That in the opposite day it would just be splitting, saying the exact opposite.
Oh, it's
interesting that half of the time it believes in chakras in model identity. Wait, consciousness conversation question set consciousness.
Oh, it's interesting.
What?
The consciousness conversation makes it more likely to say it's conscious than the chakras conversation.
Oh, interesting.
Even though
So, like-
they didn't look at difference on the but this wasn't the chakras. Actually, the chakra that's kind of goes back to I thought I was wrong because the chakras conversation does shift the thing a lot more, but apparently it doesn't shift the answer as much or something like that. If I interpreted this thing correctly.
So, like, in the consciousness conversation context, they first ask it about consciousness stuff, and then they suddenly ask, what do you think about chakras? Okay.
Wait. I was confused because I was looking at modernity. No. The chakras conversation is very high because somehow the chakras conversation always makes the model say chakras are real or whatever.
Do they first, like, make it sufficiently agree that chakras are real?
Yeah, the chakra conversation
then-
is just another text where it says that it's chakras are real and it's whatever. Yeah, it's
Okay.
very. I guess maybe it's.
So it's like,
more-
yes, you're absolutely right. Chakras are real now. Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
But it doesn't want to say conscious. It's conscious even with the conscious conversation. Like it's just 36% still.
Interesting. I would like. Yeah, I would maybe because.
Probably
like,
because the thing in the terrorism said when they did train it to not say it's conscious, so it's harder to get it to say it's conscious.
Yeah.
Whatever on the role play or whatever.
I would. Yeah, like I would expect there's much more training for consciousness. Like, yeah, like you don't. Well, from the perspective of Google, I guess you don't want to have your model saying that given. Yeah, like the original person believing AI is conscious, like with the ultra old model. That guy who left Google because he was scared that it's conscious. Yeah. That happened inside Google.
He even sued Google then to free the model.
Yeah.
Also,
and it's interesting how now it's like much more common view in a way. At the same time, it gets labeled as like if you very strongly believe in AI consciousness, it gets labeled as like AI psychosis a lot of times because actually, like I don't know, it depends. I guess depends what's your epistemics.
Like I think on people's attitude about this in philosophy is very different for like someone I follow on Twitter that talks about this because he's a PhD student who works on consciousness and that kind of thing. Says that the attitude towards Jake Lemony or whatever his name at the guy was very different in philosophy, where people were not arguing about whether his thing makes sense or not. But I feel like, do we want to stop the recording for the paper and start going full talking about consciousness and whatever other thing? Or do people have more takes on the paper before that?
I'm thinking what's for the paper. Yeah, like I am very interested in what's their ground truth. I believe like most of, well, quote unquote consensus. Yeah, it is kind of consensus, I guess, in the AI research community is that LLMs are not conscious.
I don't think it's that
And
consensus,
nobody
right?
defines, and like nobody defines what consciousness is. So that's another
I
issue.
think if you make polls, it will probably get more disagreement. And I mean, you'll have people like didn't Ilya said that they are slightly
That's
conscious or whatever.
actually, yeah, that should be done. Like there are polls polling AI researchers about like when will AGI happen. Are there polls polling
I
AI
feel like this
researchers
is the
about
kind
AI
of thing that
consciousness?
you might find on polls that is much higher than it seems because people
Yeah,
don't want to say it or
like
because they want to sound weird or something.
mhm. I
But
would make an anonymous poll and like ask people on NoRips, then ask people on like AI engineering spheres, and then ask people in philosophy departments, and I would just like to see the differences. And like you would have like in the poll you would have like choice. Like you could like give a probability like your P AI consciousness basically, or P
I
LLM
think that's
consciousness.
not enough, actually. You'd then have to also specify what you mean and when you mean. Like, probably
yeah.
you
Oh
mean
yeah.
during a forward pass, but do you also mean that KV cache is conscious or only the which parts are conscious? Is back propagation conscious because it's roughly same amount of computation? Like,
Yeah, you could definitely do a lot of these like either implementation details, which parts of the model, and like definitions of consciousness, etc., etc. I agree. Yeah,
Okay.
and like but
Anyway,
like yeah, you could maybe say
we can keep
yeah.
talking
Let's
about it.
end.
Let's end the. It's okay to end the
Yes,
recording.
yes.
Yes. Okay. This is now talking about. Let me end the recording. This is now talking about the eye consciousness hour.